kaya magandang panoorin? Subukan ko nga 'tong sinuggest sa kaibigan ko.
Love is like a burning flame. It either warms your heart or burns you down. Parang apoy lang yan. Fire has been used for thousands of years by early humans to survive even till this day. Fire still has a massive role in our daily life. However, it can also cause disaster. Pero hindi ka naman apoy, di ba? Bakit nagpapagamit ka pa rin at bakit nagiging disaster pa rin yan sa buhay mo? Fire is a dangerous phenomenon that has the potential to cause damage to properties, injuries, and loss of life. In fact, the Bureau of Fire Protection posted a 4.02 decrease in fire incidents in the Philippines from January to December 26, 2022. However, according to their agency, there was a notable increase in fireworks and firecracker-related fires during the same period. That's why there are some prohibited firecrackers here in the country.
Teka, check ko muna yung phone ko. What the? So, you're trying to say that understanding what fire is, its concepts, the hazards associated with it, and prevention measures is important for individuals and communities to protect themselves and other people. Is that what you're trying to say? Fire is a chemical reaction that converts fuel and oxygen into carbon dioxide and water. It is also an exothermic reaction. In other words, one that produces heat. We can also say that fire is a visible effect of the process of combustion. Anong relate man sa love ko?
Ang relate is, fire can occur anywhere and anytime. It can rapidly spread and may cause smoke inhalation, burns, or even death, just like your toxic love.
Ano ba 'tong mga 'to? Ang daming eme sa buhay, pati ako'y dadamay pa. Nakahanap na nga ng something informative.
The fire triangle is a model for conveying the components of a fire. The fire triangle's three sides illustrate the three elements of a fire: heat, fuel, and oxidation. The three elements must be combined in the right proportions for a fire to occur. If any of the three elements are removed, the fire is extinguished. First element in the fire triangle is heat, which is perhaps the most essential of fire elements. A fire cannot ignite unless it has a certain amount of heat, and it cannot grow without heat. A source of fire is required in order for ignition to occur, and different materials have different flash points. Example, the lowest temperature achieves the ignite. Unfortunately, combustion reaction also produces heat as they burn, further increasing the temperature of the fuel. For some types of fire, the heat can be cooled with the application of water. One of the first things firefighters do to extinguish a fire is to apply a cooling agent, usually water. Another cooling agent is a chemical fire retardant, such as the one that we use in the fire extinguishers. Another method of diffusion heat from a fire is to scrape the ember from the fire source, such as wood embers on a burning building. Firefighters will also turn off the electricity in a burning building to remove a source of heat.
The second element in the fire triangle is fuel. A fire needs a fuel source in order to burn. Once the fuel element of the fire triangle is removed, the fire will go out. A fire cannot begin if there is no material to burn. Homes and businesses are full of flammable materials, such as paper, oil, wood, and fabrics. Any of these can serve as a fuel for a fire. Some materials burn more easily than others. Fuels are probably the most difficult side of the fire triangle to remove. So it's wise to store them appropriately to prevent them becoming a fire hazard. If a fire is allowed to burn without any attempt to extinguish it, as in the case of a controlled burn conducted by the Forest Service, it will extinguish on its own when it has consumed all of the fuel. Heat will also help to ignite a fire and keep it burning. As a combustible material succumbs to a fire, heat will be naturally produced. The only way in which this can be cooled is by the application of water for some types of fire. Other fire may need to be doused in foam or other liquids or substances to either reduce the heat source or suffocate the fire.
The third element of the fire triangle is oxygen, which is also an essential component of fire. A fire needs oxygen to start and continue. That is why one recommendation for extinguishing a small fire is to smother it with a non-flammable blanket, sand, or dirt.
To sustain the combustion reaction, oxygen or an oxidizing agent is needed, as it reacts with the burning fluid to release heat and CO2. Earth's atmosphere consists of 21% oxygen, so there is plenty available to trigger a fire if the other two components are present. Fire blankets and certain fire extinguishers will be posted inside of the triangle by removing it or displacing it, causing suffocation and thereby facilitate the combustion reaction. A decrease in the concentration of oxygen retards the combustion process. In large fires where firefighters are called in, decreasing the amount of oxygen is not usually an option because there is no effective way to make that happen in an extended area. Oxygen supports the chemical process that occurs during fire. When fuel burns, it reacts with the oxygen from the surrounding air, releasing heat and generating combustion products. This process is also known as oxidation. Despite 21% of Earth's atmosphere is made up of oxygen, this small amount is just enough to both ignite a fire and sustain it. Should the other two elements be present, a fire will only require 60% oxygen to burn. And so these oxidized oxygen will significantly accelerate the chemical reaction.
The situation that could cause the ignition of combustible materials if left unchecked or uncontrolled are called the fire hazard. It includes all types of live frames, causes of fires, hot objects, and chemicals that are potential for ignition. It is the prime object of safety system to detect, remove, or reduce the risk of fire threatened by these potential hazards.
Following fire hazards and causes of fire are common at home, public places, and workplaces. Number 1. Electrical faults. Electrical faults can cause a spark or an arc that can ignite combustible materials. Some examples of this are damaged electrical wires, higher loads, loose connections, and etc. Number 2. Human error. Fires can be caused by human error, such as leaving cooking unattended, smoking near flammable materials, or improperly discarding secrets. Number 3. Natural causes. Natural causes, such as lightning strikes, can cause fires. Number 4. Arson. Have you ever seen someone burning trash in their yard? Did you know that it may also be a cause of fire? Arson is a deliberate act of setting fire to a property or other materials.
Number 5. Chemical reactions. Certain chemicals such as flammable liquids and gases can ignite when exposed to heat or sparks. Number 6. Spontaneous combustion. Some materials such as oily rags can spontaneously ignite when exposed to heat. Number 7. Heat sources. We have a lot of heat sources inside our house. Heat sources such as candles, matchsticks, furnaces, stoves, and heaters can cause fires if they malfunction or are used improperly.
Prevention of fire is essential to protect lives, property, and the environment. Proper fire safety measures such as fire alarms, smoke detectors, sprinkler systems, and fire extinguishers can help prevent fires from occurring and minimize their impact if they do occur. In our times where fire hazard often happens, it is important that we know what are the 5 phases of fire emergency. The first phase of fire is ignition or incipient phase. This phase is the easiest to suppress and it will cause the least damage.
Secondly, we have growth phase. Once a fire reaches this stage, it becomes harder to control. If a fire detector recognizes a fire at this point, you have little time to put it out before it reaches flashover. Flashover. NFPA 921 defines flashover as a transitional phase in the development of a compartment fire in which surfaces exposed to thermal radiation reach its ignition temperature more or less simultaneously, and fire spreads rapidly throughout this phase, resulting in full room involvement or total involvement of the compartment or enclosed area. This means there is a sudden ignition of everything combustible in a contained area. temperatures can rise up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit in just a few seconds. Humans are not likely to survive in a compartment that has flashover.
Third is fully developed phase. At this point, the fire is at its hardest phase to suppress. The fire is at its maximum temperature, causing the most heat damage. The odds of stopping the fire at this phase is much more smaller.
The fourth phase is decaying phase. This phase of a fire is when the fire decreases in intensity until it is either a smolder or non-existent. If there was no suppression, this is likely when there is nothing left for the fire to burn.
The 5 emergency management. First, we have prevention. This is the action taken to avoid an incident.
Second is mitigation. Refers to measures that prevent an emergency, reduce the chance of an emergency happening, or reduce the damaging effects of unavoidable emergencies.
Now, third we have is preparedness. Activities increase a community's ability to respond when a disaster occurs.
Fourth is response. This phase is a reaction to the occurrence of catastrophic disaster or emergency like fire. Actions carried out immediately before, during, and immediately after a hazard impact, which are aimed at saving lives, reducing economic losses, and alleviating suffering.
Lastly, the recovery phase. Actions taken to return a community to normal or near normal conditions, including the restoration of basic services and the repair of physical, social, and economical damages.
The issue of fire hazard is a critical issue that requires urgent attention to reduce the risk of fire outbreaks. The fire triangle, which is a combination of heat, fuel, and oxygen, is a fundamental concept in fire prevention and management. Understanding it can help to identify potential sources of ignition and fuel sources that may contribute to a fire outbreak.
Additionally, it is important to understand the causes of fires to prevent them from occurring in the first place. Some common causes of fire, like electrical faults, smoking, cooking, human errors are important to be identified in order to know the measures that can be put in place to prevent fires from happening.
Firefighters must have a proper understanding of the 5 phases of fire emergency to effectively combat fires and prevent them from spreading. Quick response time, effective communication, and appropriate firefighting equipment are necessary to contain a fire during the early stages.
It is essential to take a proactive approach in preventing fire hazards. Understanding the fire triangle, identifying the causes of fires, and having a proper understanding of the 5 phases of fire emergencies are critical in preventing and managing any potential fire outbreaks. Effective fire prevention, education, and training can also help reduce fire risk in homes, workplace, and public spaces.
It is crucial that individual and societal efforts are made to mitigate fire hazard and ensure a safer environment for all.
Let's all work
One,
To prepare ourselves
Against potential hazards.
Of fire.